Welcome students. Today we will see next topic, types of demand. See, listen carefully. There are 5 types of demand. First, direct demand. Second, indirect demand. Third one, complementary or joint demand. Fourth one, composite demand. And fifth one, competitive demand. So students, we see first types of demand, direct demand. So what is mean by direct demand? See, it is the demand by the consumer for goods which satisfy their wants directly. They serve direct consumption need to the consumer. Thus, it is the demand for consumer goods. For example, demand for cloth, sugar, etc. That means demand is directly consumption for the consumer, and this demand is called direct demand. Understand? Then second types of demand, indirect demand. See, what is meant by indirect demand? Indirect demand is also known as derived demand. It refers to demand for goods which are needed for further production. It is the demand for producers' goods. Hence, all factors of production have indirect or derived demand. For example, demand for workers in a sugar factory is derived or indirect demand. That means all factor of production is a indirect demand. Third type is a complementary or joint demand. See, what is a joint demand? When two or more goods are demanded jointly to satisfy a single want, it is known as joint demand or complementary demand. See, example, car and fuel. This is a joint demand example. Then next one, composite demand. What is meant by composite demand? See, listen carefully. The demand for a commodity which can be put to several uses is known as composite demand. See, for example, see, electricity is demanded for several uses such as light, fan, washing machine, etc. Student, tell me second example of complementary demands. Second example of complementary demand is water. Okay. So next types of demand is competitive demand. See, it is the demand for those goods which are substitute for each other. This is called competitive demand. For example, tea and coffee, then sugar or jaggery, then other example, Coca-Cola and Thumbs Up, etc. This is a competitive demand. Okay students, I hope you understand types of demand. So students, we see next topic, determinants of demand. That means factor affecting demand. So demand is affected by the following factor. First, price. Price is the one of the most important factor that affect demand. When price rise, demand falls, and when price falls, demand rise. That means price determine the demand for a commodity to a large extent. Consumer prefer to purchase a product in a large quantity when price of a product is less, and they purchase a product in small quantities when price of a product is high. That means when price rise, demand falls, and when price falls, demand rise. Next topic is income. See, income is yet one of the most important factor affects demand. Demand depend upon income of individuals in the society. Normally, demand rise with increased income of the society. That means income of a consumer decided purchasing power, which in a turn influence the demand for the product. Rise in income will lead a rise in demand for the commodity, and a fall in income will lead to a fall in demand for the commodity. Understand? Then next topic is a price of substitute goods. If a substitute goods is available at a lower price, then people will demand cheaper substitute goods than costly goods. For example, if the price of sugar rise, the demand for jaggery will rise. That means demand changes due to change in price of substitutes. For example, demand for a tea change because of change in price of coffee. Demand change due to change in price of substitute goods. For example, demand for a tea change because of change in price of coffee. Next point is the price of complementary goods. See, change in the price of one commodity would also affect the demand for other commodity. For example, car and fuel. If price of fuel rise, then demand for cars will falls. Next point, nature of product. If a commodity is a necessity and its usage is unavoidable, then its demand will continue to the same irrespective of the corresponding price. For example, medicine to control blood pressure. Next point is the size of population. Larger is the size of population, greater will be the demand for a commodity, and smaller the size of population, smaller will be the demand for a commodity. That means depend upon population. Population is large, demand also large or greater. Then population is small, then demand is also small. Then next point is a expectation about future price. If the consumer expect the price to fall in future, he will buy less in the present at the prevailing price. Similarly, if the expect the price to rise in future, he will buy more in the present at the prevailing rate. That means, see, if the consumer expect a fall in price of a commodity in near future, they will demand less at a present price, and consumer expect a rise in price of a commodity in the near future, they will demand more at present price. It shows that expectation about the future price affects demand. Next point is advertisement. Advertisement, sales, promotion schemes and effect salesmanship trends to change the preferences of the consumers and lead to demand for many products. For example, cosmetic, toothbrush, etc. That means you know that the goods which are advertised powerfully on radio, television and newspaper, etc. push up demand. Advertisement is an important factor today that affect demand. Next one is a taste, habit and fashion. Taste and habit of a consumer influence the demand for a commodity. If a consumer like to eat chocolate or consume tea, he will demand more of them. Similarly, when a new fashion hits the market, the consumer demand that particular types of a commodity. If a commodity goes out of fashion, then suddenly the demand for that product tends to fall. That means, in short word, some factors such as the taste habit of a consumer affects demand in the market. Then next one, level of taxation. High rates of tax on goods or services would increase the price of goods or services. This in turn would result in a decrease in demand for a goods and services and vice versa. And other factor, change in any climatic condition, change in technology, change in government policies, consumers and traditions also affects demand. Okay students, I hope you understand determination of demand. Thank you students.